Welcome to Experts Unleashed, a podcast that aims to uncover how professionals and entrepreneurs transform their experience into income while making a positive impact in the world. I'm your host, Joel Irway, and over the past 4 years, I've helped entrepreneurs develop and launch their expert-based businesses to grow past 6 and 7 figures per year. Now, a professional expert serves their community through paid training, education, or service, and this podcast will show you how to design and execute your plan to become a 6 or 7 figure expert without a big team. So, let's get started. What's going on, experts? It's Joel Irway here with another episode of Experts Unleashed, and I want to ask you a question. Have you ever wondered what your dreams mean? Have you ever tried to interpret your dreams? Have you ever tried to figure out what your dreams mean with relation to what you're currently going through in your life? So I just hopped off the interview with Sansan Fibri, and she is a dream interpreter by all sense of the imagination. So Sansan has 15 years of experience in film and television. And a year ago, after being validated as a finalist for Apple's competition series Planet of the Apps, she founded her company Dreamy. Now, based on empirically proven Jungian methods, Dreamy is the only AI-powered dream interpretation app, psychotherapist matching platform, and a global wisdom bank of dreams. Now, that was a lot to kind of consume. But when I was talking to Sansan, we went through a lot of different exercises. And in fact, I got a little bit selfish because I wanted to know what my dreams meant. And so she went through a couple exercises to explain what I was going through as I was going through some recurring micro dreams and dreams that I was half awake and half asleep. Anyway, this is a fascinating interview. If it sounds confusing right now, I mean, imagine what it's like trying to interpret dreams. And so we talk about how Sansan was able to develop this app and to turn this expertise of dream interpretation and building this network of connecting all sorts of humans and their dreams and being able to relate it so you can figure out what your dreams actually mean. This was an absolutely fascinating interview, and you are absolutely going to love it. So, without further ado, let's jump right into today's episode. Sansan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be talking with you.
So do me a favor, do our audience a favor, give us a little bit of background about who you are and what business you currently run, and then we will jump into the meat of our interview.
Sure. So my name is Sansan Fibri. I was born and raised primarily in Israel. I spent 2 years of my childhood in Madison, Wisconsin, of all places. And today I am the proud founder and CEO for Dreamy app, which is the world's first and only AI-powered dream interpretation app.
What does that mean, AI-powered?
It's a bit complex to explain, but the idea is, in the bottom line, as far as the user experience, we customize the dream interpretation we tailor it to the unique individual according to our process, in order for the interpretation to be more significant to them.
Okay.
We personalize it according to questions and answers that you give us. Questions we generate, that the app generate, and answers you give us.
Awesome.
So think about it a little bit like when you do those very simple little fun personality tests, or what's your type and this or that, right? What's your animal type? What's your warrior type? Whatever it is. It's a similar process, except that the AI part comes to learn from the entire user base of Dreamy, because that's a database that has never been built. There's never been a global database of dream insights, and it's not about getting your personal data, and it's not about exposing your dreams to anybody. Those are your intimate thoughts, and having privacy is of utmost importance to us. But it's about understanding humanity on a level that we haven't yet been able to tap into. And as users, it's about understanding yourself, tapping into untapped resources, because listen, we all have to sleep. We're going to dream. It's not a question if we want it or not. We're going to dream. It's a biological imperative. So why not tap into those resources? They're already there. Why not just use it to your benefit to help your life be better?
So you're building a database of thoughts. Is that true?
Of images and how we relate to them. Say house, bird, pink elephant, whatever may, the crazy stuff that can happen. And also, so people know there's going to be a community platform level of it, so that people know that they're not alone. Everybody says to me, oh, but I have really crazy dreams. Well, guess what? We all have crazy dreams. We're all a little crazy inside. That's the point in dreams. They work. Dreams come to resolve the deepest issues, that are core issues. And what we don't have the time to address, and what we don't have the tools to address in our waking life, you're uninhibited in a dream. That's when you deal with the real stuff, the real desire, the real shame, the real fears, and tapping into it, looking at it in a way that we can help you kind of deconstruct and decode. It comes in an encoded way, right? It comes in a series seemingly unrelated images, but they are related. In fact, there are psychological studies that suggest that because we go through 4 to 6 REM cycles during the night, and they increase in length and in intensity, and those are the periods where we dream. It's been suggested by a researcher called Rosalind Cartwright from Chicago's Rush University Medical Center. Her research suggests that we're actually dealing with pretty much one problem per night, but we're testing different scenarios, because it's an environment that's very emotionally real, but physically not real. You can't actually get hurt. So anything could happen. And you're kind of free to test different ways and come up with creative solutions to your basic core issues. So being able to see that process and understand that process and get insight from that process, you have a better understanding of yourself, who you are, where you want to go.
This is such a fascinating realm for me, because I've never really considered dream interpretation. But for whatever reason, it is extremely intriguing. So, I mean, for somebody who might be listening right now, how did you come up with this idea? Where did all this machine learning of images in your sleep, can you tell what the origin story?
It's a process that spans pretty much almost my whole lifetime. When I was 7, and I was kind of uprooted from my home as I knew it, Israel, and taken to Madison, Wisconsin, everything was foreign to me. I loved it. I was very excited by the new surround. I'm someone who gets very excited. The difference between my sister and I was that for her, it was more, this is foreign, I'm not comfortable. For me, it was, oh, this is foreign, so it's exciting. So I have a lot to explore, because I have a more adventurous spirit. But I started having this recurring dream where in the dream I would, on my age, we used to go to the lake in Madison, and I would go into the lake, but I guess it was more like an ocean in my dream. And I would go in, and the first thing is I realized that I could breathe underwater. I was like, oh, why does nobody try that? I can breathe underwater. And then in the deep water, a whole new world was revealed to me of interesting creatures and scenarios and all these weird sea animals. And it was at once compelling and exciting and thrilling and terrifying. And that's really what I was going through. I was in a new world with new behaviors, different customs, different language, different kids in my school. And I could feel, even though I may not have had the vocabulary at that age, to understand it on that level, I knew there was something about it that was very significant and very true. It was kind of like true to my core. And so that started my whole obsession with dreams. Later on, I studied Jungian dream interpretation, Jungian dream analysis. So Carl Jung was considered the father of modern dream interpretation, and most modern psychology subscribes more to his school of thought than Freud, but that's another thing. And so I became very interested. And after I learned it, I only became more interested. And here's the thing, remembering your dreams is a muscle. So the more you pay attention to them, the more you remember. So someone like me, who already started from childhood paying attention to them, was already at a very high recall rate, we call it. But obviously, the more when I studied it, and now when I'm building the app, it's almost every morning, if I keep my eyes closed and I just tell this dream to myself, and soon enough I'll be telling it to Dreamy, then I remember pretty much every dream. So, and it's very significant to me.
So in age 7, you moved you went from Israel to Madison. And this is when you remember your first recurring dream of going underwater, breathing underwater, and then discovering this new world. How long did that dream recur for?
I think throughout the whole time we were there for about a year.
For a year, right?
Yeah,
okay,
definitely. It would come back and I'd get to explore new areas of this undersea world.
So did you ever, what was the interpretation of it? Was it, what was the ultimate interpretation of that dream?
The way I know now, as an adult self with better vocabulary and better understanding of human behavior, I realized it was just about me being in a new world and being at the same time excited and terrified.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very adventurous spirit, so I loved it. But yes, it's also scary, new world. There were things that were very whimsical, like a whole arch of snails, like these sea snails, which is very whimsical and cute. But then there was a sea snake that had a barrier about like yay high. And I'm thinking, well, he can slither, or that's not much of a barrier to keep a snake. It's a snake. So, there were definitely elements in that new life that I had that were probably scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just about a young girl navigating herself in a new world. It really was about that.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So, does a recurring dream mean that I have to act on something, or is that recurring dream just going to be there as I go through a certain stage of my life? So the reason why I'm asking this question is like, okay, so here I am. I've never tried to interpret dreams, my own dreams before. Why is it important for me to want to interpret dreams?
Very good question. And I get that a lot. So 2 things. One is it important for you to know yourself better? Do you find value in understanding yourself so that the choices you make and the actions you take in life are better informed and better suited to what the result of that action or choice you want it to be? It's just having a little more, awareness and therefore more control of where you're leading your destiny, where you're leading yourself. I often refer to dreams as an emotional roadmap. It's the stories that we tell ourselves. It's the stories that our subconscious tells us. And if we're able to look at them and more over time, we start getting an emotional roadmap of where we came from and what made this road lead to and what made that road lead to. And you know where you are inside the map. And usually you can navigate yourself better when you have a map. So it's about being able to, having the tools to navigate yourself emotionally better and more informed. Therefore, make better choices, whether it's, a fight with a loved one, whether it's career choices, everything in life.
So when you say being able to navigate better, the way that I interpret what that means is if I'm able to, like, the word navigation leads me to believe that there's a specific end point that we're heading, right? And so, if I'm navigating in a GPS, I have to put an endpoint to saying this is how you get there.
Well, you have little endpoints throughout your life, right? You have goals. Even if they're not set as you didn't write them, this is my goal. You want to have, say you're married, you
Mhm.
want to have a loving relationship. Say you have a kid, you want the kid to grow up to be, those are little endpoints that you set for yourself. And we do that whether actively or not. Something that psychotherapist once said to me, I said to her, okay, great. So now we've talked about why this triggers me and where did this come from and where did this. And I'm like, that's great. Now I know where it comes from and why it triggers me and why does this trigger me in a certain way. But I'm a doer, like I'm an action taker. So I'm like, Eva, what do I do with it? Give me something to do. Tell me to jump up and down 5 times a day. I don't know, screaming cock-a-doodle-doo. I don't care. Give me something I can do to improve it or to do with it, with this
Mhm.
information. And she said, well, when you don't have this information, think about a horse with the blinders. Your emotions are blindly leading you wherever they want. You're being triggered here and there from other actions that other people take that have nothing to do with you. And you're blindly led by your emotions rather than opening the blinders and going, okay, well, I could react like that, but I could also not. I could also react in a different way. I could also realize it's not about me. I could also not be offended by it. I can also realize that it's not that somebody was mean to me, it's my anxiety about them maybe leaving that makes me feel that way. I think life becomes a little easier.
Mhm.
And choices and direction become clearer when you're aware of where exactly you were at emotionally.
Awesome. Cool. So, how did this idea come about then? Right. So, I mean, obviously, your first recurring dream happened when you were a child, but I'm assuming that you probably didn't have this idea at 7 years old. Hey, I want to do this as, you know,
Before the internet was a thing.
right.
Not that I'm disclosing my age now, but yeah, the internet was definitely not a thing when I was 7. So it's really great. As I said, when in my 20s, I studied dream analysis by Carl Jung, by the methods of Carl Jung, and with the head of the Jungian Institute of New York at the time. And obviously, it only deepened my excitement, my curiosity, and also my understanding of dreams. A few years ago, as we now live in the era of everything has an app, right? And so I thought I wanted that tool. I would wake up in the morning and go, oh, damn. And it's a little bit like a psychotherapist doesn't analyze themselves. They go to another therapist to analyze them. It's very hard to analyze your own dream because you're not disconnected from it. And the only sources out there, whether online, app, or books, are all dream dictionaries. So it's kind of a one size fits all. I dreamt about a pink elephant, and they tell you what an elephant and what pink means. But pink and elephant can mean different things to different people. So I wanted a tool that can understand. I don't know if you're a cat person.
Nope.
Some people would refer to cat as a man's best friend. I refer to cat as untrustworthy. I only ever have nightmares about cats, not about bears or tigers, a cat hanging on to me and tearing my skin. So obviously very different meanings. So I wanted to find a way to aggregate different sources because there are so many sources out there. There is an understanding. There is a lot of research into human psychology, but to be able to work with the user to help customize and help them self-select some of this process so that it is most significant to them. So a year ago, I was a film and TV producer, and I heard they were casting for an Apple-produced show called Planet of the Apps. Apple came out with a show that is a little bit like Shark Tank for app builders. It's called Planet of the Apps. And I thought, hey, I got this great idea for an app and it's not out there. And I know I'm not really in tech and stuff, but let me submit. And I submitted my 1-minute pitch video, and they kept calling me back for more and more submissions until it got all the way through to, final submission was a 10-minute pitch video where I had to go deep into functionality and all kind of aspects of the business and go to market plan and all that stuff. And so 2 things that happened. One is I felt very validated because anybody in Silicon Valley had applied for this show, and you could apply with, some developers develop 10 apps and they could apply with one at a time. They could apply 10 times. And the fact that they kept selecting me said to me, well, Apple finds this as an interesting and viable product. And the second thing that happened is I had to go very deep into development on paper and go, I would really like it to do that. And I would really like it if the alarm clock could wake you up and kind of start recording your dream right away so you can keep your eyes closed, and different features that I thought would be cool. And then I'd go to my developer and he would go, okay, well, that's what this takes. I mean, in a way, I think I was in an advantage not having the technical background because I didn't know what's impossible. So my imagination could roam. I didn't know what's possible and what's not possible. I just said, hey, I think it'd be cool if it does this or that. And so that's how we started to build it. Then we went into building it. We have a beta version now. We're going to launch it out in the market soon. We're starting beta testing, and we're going to launch by the summer. But meanwhile, people can go to dreamyapp.com and sign up to be the first one to be notified when the app is available for public download.
So did you get accepted by Planet of the Apps?
I did not make it through the final round because they wanted only to take apps that were already in a beta version, and we were nowhere near. I mean, I've developed it on paper, but the technology, it took another 4 or 5 months to build it. So in a way, I'm glad because I got to do it my way, and I got to really experience the whole process and to build the business from the ground up.
So what types of challenges have you run into, like bridging the gap of like human consciousness and thoughts with machine learning, not even machine learning, but machine learning when somebody's asleep? I mean, in my mind, like, it's just like, the machine
is not penetrating your head while you're sleeping. It's using the information that you give it in order to better understand you, but then it also does the same thing with everybody else. And so it starts understanding trends of behavior. Let's say if it's something that's going to be, let's say women who are in their 30s and pregnant and single in urban cities. It's starting to understand the human psychology as relates to demographic, as relates to times in life where people have higher stress, higher anxiety. When do there is this? There are a few dreams that are pretty much global dreams. So pretty much everybody's had at least once in their life. There is the getting caught naked in public. You just suddenly you realize that you forgot to put clothes on, and you're in public, whether on the street or at work, showing up to either a presentation at work that you're suddenly completely unprepared for, even though you've prepared it and you've known of this, or even suddenly you're back in school and it's test time and you're drawing blanks. That's a very common dream. Teeth falling, being chased. So there's the significance that we can deduce from understanding when do people have this type of dream and that type of dream. It's not about Joel. It's about humanity. When do they happen to have the dream where they're caught naked? Is it when they go through a time in their life when they feel a little overexposed? Or is it something else? I don't know. We're yet to find out. but I'm excited about finding out. And it's finding out something that has never been researched in this way.
This is incredibly fascinating to me just to hear you explain it, right? Because from what I hear you explaining, it's you're teaching people how to, you said it, learn about humanity, right? And so this database, I don't want to get technical, but like the database of the information that you want to collect is really to just educate us on how we operate and like.
And to educate the machine so that the machine can then serve us better.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit like Amazon saying, well, people who bought this also like this, this, and this. It's helping them tailor their services to you. Netflix, people who gave 5 stars to this dream. Well, 10,000 other people gave 5 stars to this dream, but they also gave 5 stars to this other dream. So we're guessing you might like that too. And then it keeps learning from you as long as you keep logging in, you put your star rating on different films, and it goes, oh, okay, well, it aggregates all this data from other users to understand and better serve you and better be able to personalize suggestions for you. Pandora does it. There's a million examples out there.
So what type of suggestions is your app going to give them based on, so the user has to input their dream, right? And their rating of how much they...
No, not the rating. More an emotional kind of, an emotional bar.
Yep.
Let's say from anxious to elated. And they kind of get to put the cursor. So that's, and there's titling the dream is something that gives the machine and the person a clue of what's the thematic core of the dream, because it often seems like such a bunch of unrelated events and images that you're like, what was this dream about? Well, if somebody asks you to title it, the first thing that would come to your mind is the core of the dream, is the thematic core. So it's interesting when you ask yourself, how would I title it? What comes out then?
Yeah.
So what we will be suggesting to them, the machine will better understand what to suggest to you as potential meanings. Because we're only suggesting potential meanings. You select the one that most resonates with you, and then the machine generates the entire interpretation. But the machine first tries to figure out how you relate to a certain specific thing. So if it tries to find out how you relate to one specific thing, that's great. It will grow to know you better the more dreams you put in. But if it also at the same time learns from the entire user base, then it has so much more knowledge of people like you. Because we do go through similar experiences as human beings. We've all had anxiety. We've all felt, lonely or rewarded, whatever it is, the human experience, it's something we all go through. It's just when in our life, that's our DNA, is when in our life does what play what role.
So what's the goal of the Dreamy app what's the future goal, the ultimate goal for the Dreamy app in terms of its user experience? Is this, you just want to be able to tell the user this is kind of how we're interpreting the dream, or are there going to be other benefits associated with it when they use the app?
Our mission is really to change the way people dream, is to revolutionize dreaming and to help people around the world feel better, sleep better, be better. Feel better because it reduces stress and anxiety when we address our core issues. And we're feeling more connected. Sleep better because it's very connected to our sleep pattern. And there's also this vicious circle of the more stressed you are, the worse you sleep. The worse you sleep, the more prone to anxiety and stress you are. So it's breaking the cycle while, let's say, some of the sleep medicine out there, whether it's natural but the whole sleep health community, they're trying to break into the cycle there. We're breaking into the cycle here. It's part of the same cycle. So eventually it aids each other. and be better because, again, understanding where you are and understanding a little bit who you are and what's going on with you can help you become who you want to become and live the life that you want to live. So that's the big lofty goal. On a more macro level, yes, there will be add-ons. There will be matching with dream experts because humans, thank God, still have more intuitions than machines. Then we would match you with a human expert who could read your dream and analyze it with a little more human insight. And there would be the community effect and our global dream wisdom banks. As I said, for example, there are global dreams. Say you entered a dream and now because of the community effect, Dreamy can tell you, hey, 80% of Dreamy users had a similar dream today or in the past months. So it helps you understand how not only better what you're going through, but how it relates to what other people are going through and not feel so isolated in the experiences because we forget sometimes what we're going through. We think, wow, our drama is the only thing. We're the only ones who, we're not. And it helps put things in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps feel supported. And in the Global Dream Wisdom Bank, there would also be insights like I'm giving you.
Mm-hmm.
You could go, oh, I have this dream and I want to know what it means on a bigger level, on a humanity level, not only on my own level. So you could find that there. There would be different modules that would walk you through dream incubation. Dream incubation is pretty much problem solving on demand in your dreams. And there's a very simple method to how to do it. So the dream incubation model will help you get to the place where you dream about the problem that you want to solve this week.
Mm-hmm.
And you will dream the solution. It's been proven in research. And lucid dreaming, it's also been proven that there are ways, again, simple exercises you can follow that we could actually take you through to help induce lucid dreaming, which is that thing that when you're in a dream and you're dreaming. And that is the most, I don't know if you've ever had those.
All the time. I have lucid dreams.
That's amazing. That's quite a connection you have to your consciousness because
I shouldn't say all the time, but
your conscious meets.
Yeah. It's weird though, right? So I mean
it's very freeing. I haven't had those in a few years, and I started having little elements of them. Like I was hiking in a beautiful place and I was barefoot, but I wanted to keep hiking because it was just so gorgeous and magical. So I thought to myself, I looked at my feet and I thought, if I will sneakers to be on them, they will. And then they just appeared on my feet. So that's really cool. But that was just a little element. But recently I had an entire lucid dream where I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in a dream. And so I wanted to fly because, hey, why not? That's the ultimate dreaming experience for me anyway, and for many people. Flying is so freeing. And I thought, okay, I imagined a big tree. I willed it to be pretty much a big tree. And I said, I'm going to will myself to float up to the top branch. And I'll hang on there before I dare fly, just like take off flying. And then it happened. I willed myself up and I hung on the branch and I said, okay, well, now I can fly. And I just went flying above the rooftops of New York City. And it was magical. There's something extremely freeing about it.
Yeah.
And then there's a way to combine dream incubation with lucid dreaming, which is really actually in real time directing your dream to be dealing with whatever it is that you want to incubate the solution for.
So dream incubation is problem solving when you're asleep. Is that true?
Much, yes, but it's problem solving on what you determine the problem. You can dictate your dream what to dream about. And it doesn't have to be lucid. You can pre-dictate that. And it's a practice, and we'll have a module that takes you through the practice.
and maybe I misspoke because maybe this isn't lucid dreaming. Maybe you can correct
Okay.
it. I have done lucid dreaming before, but it's not as frequent as what I think I'm actually doing. So I will be falling asleep, and I know this is mostly when I'm anxious and I've got stress occurring in my life. I will be falling asleep, and I will half wake up, and it's almost like I'm sleep walking or sleep talking. So I'll sit up and I'll actually hallucinate. I'll be laying in bed and I sit up and I'm staring at a corner of a wall and I'm staring at something. And this happens for like 5 minutes. But I know I'm awake, but I also know that I'm asleep.
What happens then?
Yeah. Oh, it's so creepy. It's a little creepy. And this is going to be public on a podcast. So this is going to be funny. So
Take out all the skeletons.
okay, I can talk about 2 or 3 that happen whenever this happens. So a while ago when I was really stressed out and I was employed working for another company, I would sit up and I would stare at like the corner of my old bedroom, and it would look because the room was dark, it looked like a man in a cloak. It just looked like a body was there staring. And I would just stare at it because I'm thinking that somebody's in my room, and I'm kind of like protective. And then eventually I'll fully wake up and realize, okay, it's gone. There have been other times where I would sit up. This happens more frequently, where I visualize like a spider, or like I'm awake laying in bed, but I think that I see a spider crawling up, and so I jump up and I try and swat it, or it's crawling towards my wife or whatever. That one happens way more frequently, and
To me, there is a thing that there is a character, because there are archetypes in dreams, and Jung is the first one who broke it down to archetypes, and one of them is the shadow. And the shadow, it can take on itself different. It could be. It sounds to me like it's the shadow character.
yeah, oh yeah, that's it. That's perfectly
Or some
described.
ominous cloaked man. Sounds like a similar emotional charge you have from that image. And so I think you are dream incubating a little bit without maybe intending to, because you are part of dream incubating is focusing on the problem that you want to solve right before you go to bed. So you're stressed about it, so obviously you're focusing and you're trying to think, right? You're trying to work it out in your head. We all do that. And then this character shows to bring you a message.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we would have to go into, well, you'd have to put it in Dreamy every time. And then every time it's different. But because it's different, because you have to see, when in your life does this show up? You said that you were working at a corporate job when the ominous cloaked person.
That was when it was most frequent. It was happening almost every night.
A message to tell you that you're not in your right place. You're not in the place that makes you happy.
100%.
There's this darkness. The shadow really lives within us. It's just a reflection of something we have within us, and it comes to show us that. So again, if we can kind of look into that, if you could see that and go, oh, okay, I'm really unhappy at my job. That's what it's telling me. And it has such an ominous presence in my reality. I'm not saying you should go and quit your job the next day, but you would know to start working on a plan of how to get to the job or the life you want.
Yep.
So that's...
Yeah, I had a hunch that that's what it was, because I wasn't sleeping well at all. And there was a lot of stress associated with it. But I mean, to this day, I don't see that cloaked man anymore. I haven't seen him in quite a while. But
right, but
I see the freaking spiders all the time.
is to me, it sounds like you're just very protective of your wife.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't say the spider is attacking you. You said it might be crawling towards my wife, or I want to stop it because next thing it's going to get to my wife.
Yep.
There's, so you're going through a time in your life. I don't know if it's a recent marriage, or you're just going through a time in your life where you feel very protective of your wife. And that's a great thing to know.
It just always wakes me up. I don't get it. I always hallucinate. Like they're not
exactly a lucid dream.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you're half awake and the dream is just still very present. Yeah. And it's not until you fully awake, you almost kind of like awake yourself, which is something I used to do when I was lucid dreaming in childhood, because in childhood, I didn't quite know I can just use it to change the whole scenario. But one of my first lucid dreams where it was a week where we were about to get the tetanus shot in school. Again, revealing my age because they don't do that anymore, do they?
I think they do. Yeah. Yeah. I got tetanus shots. Yeah.
Third grade or whatever. And I knew we were getting the tetanus shot at a certain day this week. And obviously kids hate shots. And I was very scared of it.
They're painful. The tetanus is very painful.
Yeah, I mean, especially for such a young kid. And I think it's the first shot that I remember. I mean, I don't know, whatever shots they gave me as a baby, I don't remember. But it's the first shot that I remember. And I remember knowing it's coming and how terrifying that is. So I dreamt that I was in school and we were standing in a line, waiting to get the shot. And I suddenly realized that it was just a dream. So I wasn't lucid enough to go, oh, I can just change the whole scenario. But I was lucid enough to know it's a dream. And my girlfriend was standing next to me and she was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. And I said, don't worry, it's just a dream. And she goes, no, it isn't. Really? And I said, yeah, look, I'll show you. Hold my hand. And when I say we're going to close our eyes and count to 3, and then we did that. And I don't know if I woke up or I went to a different dream, but I was able to stop it before they got to our shot. It's fun.
Yeah. It's fun to think about it. I mean, like, it's fun just to reflect. I went into this conversation kind of thinking that like maybe dreams would be able to help you not predict the future. Because I think deep down I was trying to be like, oh, how can I use, like, my dreams are trying to tell me something that's about to happen. But in reality, I think from what I've learned is like, that's not necessarily true. I think that was a false belief that I wanted dreams to be able to do. But it's just, it's really your body.
It's mostly a false belief. I think one aspect of it is, well, if you think something's going to happen often enough and deep enough, then you're going to will it to happen in your life, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And the second thing is, because we dream about what we fear most and what we desire most, it's inevitable that we consider, what if it happens, or what if it happens, right? And again, and putting that energy in our life may, in a way, and that's the whole law of attraction. That's not a topic I'm an expert on, so I'm not going to comment. But I do believe that there is a place where something that lives very strongly in our subconscious will manifest itself in a certain way in our life, for good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it doesn't mean that if you dreamt about a death of a loved one that they're about to die. Again, in my childhood, I've had so many dreams in my childhood. But I was staying at a home of friends of the family. It was summer vacation, and I think my mom was happy to have a week without her youngest daughter, who was really the most to deal with. And I was happy it was on a farm and I got to be with animals and I loved it. But I had a dream one morning that my mom died and I got so hysterical because nobody was in the house and I needed to call her. And, it wasn't that, it's not that had happened. It was that it was just as a little kid, it was the first time I was away from my mom for a few nights in a row. And it was just a normal anxiety of a kid, that whole abandonment thing. So it's understanding it helps relieve the hold it has on you.
I think that's so powerful because I think understanding it is, it sounds simple. Oh, you should understand how to interpret your dreams. But I think understanding at a macro level that, for me, I would create anxiety that I thought my dreams were going to tell me something was about to happen. And it's that's not true.
No reason. Actually, the big reassurance is that awful dreams rarely have awful meanings.
Ooh,
They
I like that.
rarely mean if you dreamt that you killed somebody. It doesn't mean you want to kill somebody. It doesn't mean you're going to do it. It means you have maybe some unresolved anger with this person or with whatever they represent to you in your life. And understanding it dissolves a little bit of the horror of
Mm-hmm.
it dissolves the it demystifies it a little bit, but in a good way, in a way where when you don't understand it, it's this monster. And when you look the monster in the eye and you go, okay, eye, ear. Oh, look, he's just like me, scratching his nose. Or you realize it's not a monster after all. It's just humanity. It's
Mm-hmm.
just feelings and it's human behavior. And it's okay. And it helps reduce your anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super powerful. I mean, like
Help you tease the monster apart.
yeah. I mean, in reality, it just comes down to your dreams are about the present. They're not about the future. They're about what's happening right now. So the dreams are all about the present. They don't dictate anything that's about to happen. And so hopefully that could help reduce some anxiety and eliminate anxiety that your dreams are.
They're about the present and how the past is fed into it.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to help you understand and for us to understand so that we can help millions of people understand.
So what's on the immediate horizon for Dreamy? Like any idea when it will launch? I mean, tell me what do this next 6 months, 3 months, 6 months look like?
So in the next 3 months, we're beta testing with some people who are very influential in psychology, wellness, and everything in between. And also with some users who don't feel they have extra insight into those arenas or extra credentials in those arenas. And we're starting because that's the thing. We need to start understanding what are those trends, what's important to look at. And it's not until we start getting this data that we start understanding also and seeing what features do they use the most, what do they like. So that's the beta testing phase. At the same time, we're raising our seed funding, and the intention is to launch by September, if not before. But in the meantime, what people can do is sign up to our website. We have a blog. We have a lot of guest bloggers who write about dreams as relates to human psychology, everything I talked about, little tricks about how to help you decipher your dreams, little tricks about how to dream incubate, lucid dream, anything fun that relates to dream. And for people to start also informing us what it is that they want to know and what it is that they like. And for them to be our core family of Dreamy users, for them to be our first adopters. And they will get the early download and they will get all the extra goodies, probably some package that includes some extra goodies for our first adopters.
So out of curiosity, right, when you were applying to the Planet of the Apps, when was that again?
It was late 2016.
Okay, all right.
It was from middle to late 2016.
And so that was basically just idea stage, meaning like this is what right? If I understand that correctly,
Right. It was deep idea stage into, plans, functionalities, but on paper, yes.
And when Apple became seriously
development phase, let's say.
Yep. So when Apple became seriously interested, was that kind of like the green light for you to be like, okay, I need to really pursue this? Like there's definitely. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Because listen, again, humanity is ready for stuff at the time it's ready for it. So I know the zeitgeist and the market is prepared for it. And if it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be somebody else who already works at Apple. So that's when I knew I had to dive in and make it happen.
Amazing. So we talked about a ton. on this podcast. I mean, selfishly, when we were in the middle of this podcast, I'm like, okay, I need to figure out like really what this all means. I told you I was very fascinated in interpreting dreams. And as I mentioned, my initial belief was that dreams were going to tell me about something that was about to happen. And that was creating anxiety, which you talked about it before. It was this vicious cycle that would go back and forth of, but then how do you cut that cycle? So the clear value of this app is it's clear. Like I totally understand it now. And I'm super excited for this thing to
be a beta tester.
Yeah, I'd love to be a beta tester. Absolutely.
Awesome. Sign you up after we're done.
Sounds good. So Sansan, drop some links. Where can we find you? Where can my listeners find you and read your blogs, read everything about you and connect with you?
Thank you. So our website is Dreamy App. It's spelled DREAME app.com. And our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is @DreamyApp. And we are starting a brand partnership with a mattress company called Tomorrow's Sleep. So we will be guest blogging on their blog.
Oh, nice.
And that's where you can find us.
That's awesome. So you should be hitting this with massive momentum when you finally do launch. It seems like you've got a lot of influential people that are ready to contribute and promote, and it's exciting. I mean, this is a very exciting venture. I'm extremely interested, and I'm super pumped for this thing to read my dreams and machine learn the crap out of what goes on inside of here while I'm sleeping. So.
And again, I want to stress how privacy is of utmost importance to us. Nobody on the back end gets your name and your email. They get only your screen name. You can choose whatever screen presence you'd like to have. And your information is not being shared. It's not being collected to help personalize commerce to you and ads to you. It really is just about understanding us as a society.
Awesome. I love it. This conversation was a blast. I learned a ton about dreams. I learned a ton about what we didn't even really get into a whole lot was the whole, raising seed funding. And, I love the fact that, your validation was just applying to Planet of the Apps, and there's no better green light than having Apple say, "I'm very interested in whatever the heck that you're doing with Dreamy." So, Sansan, thank you so much, and I'll make sure that if you listen to this episode, please reach out to her and let her know that you heard her on Experts Unleashed. And
absolutely.
Yep. Is there anything else before we sign off today that you wanted to make sure that you include? Did I miss anything?
No, just you're going to include the links also in the bottom.
Yep. Yeah, they'll be in the show notes.
A more succinct way to spell that, to give the... Yeah. I don't want to say Dreamy because there is a platform called Dreamy. Yep. It's not at all about dreams. It's about graphic designers sharing their work. But I want to... so I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah, no worries. So we'll have the links in the show notes for sure. So
I'm so excited you're going to be a beta tester.
Yeah, 100%.
I can't wait to hear what you think and how you like it and how it's growing on you.
Well, I'm a little nervous about it, but nervous in a good way. So all right.
Fun. It's really fun.
Perfect. Well, we'll wrap up for today. And thank you so much for jumping on today. And like I said before, if you listen to this episode, you enjoy it, go connect with Sansan, sign up to her Dreamy app and Dreamy app. And I promise you it will be a blast. So, okay, that's all we got for today. And we'll see you all on the next episode. Take care. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to giving you the next one. Now, if you want additional trainings and content outside of the podcast, I release exclusive video trainings on my Experts Unleashed YouTube channel. And if you'd like to come hang out with thousands of other fellow experts, join our Facebook group community where we do hangouts and webinars to help support you in your journey. Finally, if you'd like my personal help to develop, launch, or scale your business, contact me directly for private consulting opportunities to see if any spots are available. And you can find all of the information above at expertsunleashed.com.